Welcome back to Two Dudes Talking Motorcycles, except once again, we have a third dude. Our friend Emerson is joining us once again as a guest because all three of us went on a trip to California and a week-long motorcycle trip. So we're going to be talking about that today. But before we get into it, we're just going to introduce ourselves like always. I'm Gleb, and you can follow me on Instagram at GlebLapham.
I'm Meach to the Beach. Well, my name is Mitch, but you can follow me on Instagram, Meach to the Beach.
Then my name is Emerson. You can follow me on Instagram at traveling.gaijin.
And you can follow the podcast on Instagram at tdtmotorcycles. And you can also send us an email with your questions, comments, feedback, anything else you want to share at tdtmotorcycles@gmail.com. So like I said, today we're going to be talking about our California trip. I think in total we did about almost 2,300 miles in total. And then it was 7 days, and we rode through so many different places.
And on the seventh day, we rested.
Yes. Just like the good Lord intended. We just lost half our audience. It was a really fun trip. We kind of had this idea. Mitch and I had this idea back in probably towards the beginning of this year. Like, oh yeah, let's do like a week-long motorcycle trip. And then Emerson,
I crashed the party.
You crashed the party.
bought an adventure bike and then threw myself in it.
Yeah. We had to invite him at that point. Otherwise, we don't want him to be upset. So all three of us went, and we're going to talk about our experience.
Yeah.
It started off. So we rode through Nevada, which was we wanted to do basically like iron butt it all in one day. Yep. It was about 8 hours from Salt Lake to Kings Beach, Tahoe.
Without stops.
We went the whole way, no stopping at all.
None whatsoever. Made it across the entire state on one tank of gas.
One tank of gas.
Absolutely.
Our bikes are just that cool. We're built different. And going through Nevada, I don't think any of us really enjoyed that experience too much.
We all knew that it was going to be terrible. So
we knew what was coming. Honestly, if you guys recall, I felt like the first part of the stretch across Nevada wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. It wasn't until the sun got up.
Yeah. That's why I was pushing to start so early, because it would have been pretty rough had we started at like 8 o'clock or something like that.
Yeah. So
it started off probably being about 80 degrees or something like that once the sun came up.
Something like that, yeah.
And then I think as soon as we hit like Elko, that's when the heat
it was game over.
Just shot up to well over 100 degrees.
Oh, yeah.
We were stopping at pretty much every gas station.
It's what we get, like 45-minute to an hour stretches, and then we just drench ourselves in water.
Yep, we had to, because at that point, for those of you that ride in dry heat especially, once you get going to a certain speed, the wind does not even help. It just makes things worse. Yeah. It just dries you up. And the best way to do it is just get your shirt wet.
Yep.
It'll last about 2 minutes wet. But
yeah. But it sure is a nice 2 minutes.
It's such a nice 2 minutes, because that water cools off quick.
Yep.
Yeah. And it feels amazing. But once we got through Nevada, I think all of us let out pretty much a collective sigh of relief.
Arguing over who took the first shower.
Yeah.
Because we all felt super gross.
It was disgusting.
Yes.
Yeah. We were quite a sight, I'm pretty sure.
So. 100%. But then we got to Kings Beach. We stayed in an Airbnb for a couple of nights there. And then the first day we just went into town, grabbed some food, and then just hung out at the Airbnb. And then the second day, Emerson had the brilliant idea of taking us up an off-road, a dirt road that was part of the Northern California BDR. Mm-hmm. So what made you decide on that route specifically?
So on the BDR's website, it said nice gravel, twisty roads.
They weren't lying.
They were gravelly and they were twisty, but
the
roads. Gravel got really big.
Yeah.
And so we hit those hills that were just chunky, loose, big. It wasn't at all what we were expecting.
Yeah. And it did end up taking up most of the
something
most of the day.
It was supposed to be like 3 hours or so, turned into
all day.
A 6 hour, 7 hour, a whole another day.
Yeah. And Mitch and I were not nearly as fast as Emerson.
No.
So he's way better off road.
You guys were straight up not having a good time for a while.
I kept getting nervous on those hills.
Yeah.
Going up, not so much, but then going down, I was kind of worried. But there was that one section, once it got like to the rough part. Once we got past all like the private properties and
Yep.
stuff, where I mean, at one point the road was pretty much like you could drive a car
Oh,
over
yeah.
it.
I mean, yeah, I
we
mean,
saw
I,
cars just
Yeah,
Camrys
yeah.
and
Yeah.
shit like that.
I mean, for the good first portion of it, I was having a blast.
Yeah.
You know, like the little stream
I know, we
crossing.
were like,
and-
hey, this is the kind
Yeah.
of roads that I
Yeah,
like.
it's
yeah,
not
this
too
is what I
bad.
want. I was like,
Yeah.
I was loving it,
A
but then like,
perfectly
but then-
maintained road.
Once we got past that like road closed section
Yeah.
and it started climbing up, there was that one spot where it was like loose rock, a little bit of silt, and coming into like a pretty sharp turn with like a drop off on one side. I was just
Yep.
like, ooh, that definitely was like a white knuckle experience for me right there.
yeah, and then that was the first bit of taste I got from of off roading before I realized I don't have the right tires for this.
Yeah, I think we got hit pretty hard on that one.
Yeah,
And then we did break the golden rule, and we split up.
We did split up. Not
Yep.
for too long.
No, it
we
wasn't too
split
long,
up.
but we did
Yeah.
split.
Yeah,
I kept going on this trail. You guys found what was probably an easier road.
It was much
anyways.
easier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah,
There was
no
a-
service, so we really didn't have a way to get a hold of each other.
But we made it back.
Yeah.
What's
We
funny
found
about
each
that
other.
too is like because you ended up in the exact it spit you back out
Yeah.
right where we got off
Yep.
too. So it was
Which
just
is pretty funny.
But then I backtracked looking for you guys because we didn't have any service, and then I
Yep.
came back down, and then yeah, we ended up finding each other again.
It was funny because on that trail we ran into a local guy in a Jeep, and he was just telling us, and it was kind of funny because Mitch and I mentioned that we were planning on going back to Tahoe, and he's like, "Oh, just go back the way you came," and I'm just like, "I don't want to go back down
Yeah,
there.
those steep
I don't-
hills.
I don't want to go down this,
especially that
yeah.
last hill.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that
it
we
was
climbed.
pretty sketchy, and he's like, "Oh yeah, this road back is not even like it's not nearly as maintained as this one. It was way better. The views
are
were amazing.
awesome.
You can see the entire like mountain range
Yeah.
from up there."
You actually feel like
But-
you're out in the middle of the wilderness.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, it's
Yeah.
really cool.
And Mitch and I took that road back while Emerson went down to the French Meadows Reservoir,
Mm-hmm.
and we were both like, "I don't know what that guy was talking about. This is like easy cruising."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Minus this couple of silty spots here and there,
Yeah.
but for the most part, like, oh, this is fine.
Yep.
This
Yeah.
is, and I think the fact that it was so wide is what made it
Yeah.
easier because there's no like kind of that like narrow closed off
Yeah.
feeling. You have
Yeah.
some room to maneuver your bike versus
Yep.
being like either on the edge or near trees the whole time.
Yep.
So we did that, and I mean, despite me struggling a bit and having a few luggage malfunctions, trying to carry my camera
I
bag.
forgot about that.
Yeah, I had my tripod fall off, and then my camera bag slid forward at one
Yep.
point because I didn't have a
You
strap.
could tell it was very early on in the trip.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
still shaking down everything.
shaken down, but luckily it was also like pretty early on in the trail too.
Yeah.
Before we got to the rough sections where I couldn't really like stop as well.
Yeah.
So it was nice to kind of figure that out right off the bat.
Yep.
And then we ended up in Auburn.
Yes.
Yeah.
Not on purpose.
Not on purpose. We did not mean to go that far. Ended up in Auburn and ended up taking route or Highway 50, back to Tahoe.
And holy crap, guys.
Where-
South Tall. Yeah.
was a beautiful road.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely
that was
beautiful
awesome.
road. And then we finally got to a beach, which is what I wanted to do all day, is just sit on the beach.
Hey,
It was-
we're just going on a short 2.5, 3 hour drive though.
Yeah, it was a 2.5, 2 hour drive that ended up going until like
6
6 o'clock at night. Yeah. But that beach felt amazing
Oh, yeah.
once we got back to it.
Yeah,
the
that was
water
That
was
water
awesome.
was nice and cool and clean.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm very jealous of people that live close to Tahoe
Yeah.
because that whole area is just gorgeous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the next day we rode out to Dillon Beach, and we took Highway 50 out, which all of us
'Cause we loved
abs-
it.
Yeah,
It was awesome. Yeah.
it was such a beautiful road, and we were enjoying the nice, cool Tahoe air until we got close to
Sacramento
Valley. And it was well over
And-
100 degrees again.
Well, I was going to say, I remember specifically because we were looking when we stopped at gas. I think the day there it hit 111.
Yep.
And then we were stuck in traffic for a little bit.
Yes.
So,
Oh yeah, I forgot about
So
that.
that was
yeah.
fun.
yeah, that was really fun.
It's very fun, and
It
we
was
were
like
too.
the whole trip. It was really hot. Then we get 2 days of really nice. Then really hot again. Then
Yep.
2 days of really nice.
That's true. And while it is legal to lane filter in California, we kind of were a little
Hesitant. I think.
hesitant about
It's
it because
legal,
we were
but
wide.
it's probably not smart when your Moscow bags are wider than your handlebars.
Yeah, especially on my bike.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're pretty. It got pretty wide, so we didn't split too much because we didn't want to split up from one another and
Yeah.
also just kind of sit there. But I don't know. Once we got to like the Muir Woods, Marion County, We got our burger.
Super duper burger.
Super duper burger. If you're in the area, that's great. And then we rode out to the coast. And I think all of us kind of like had that jaw-dropping moment of seeing the coast on the bike for the first time. And it was just
the mist
amazing.
and everything coming
the
off
mist,
of it.
the sun kind of slowly coming down towards the horizon.
It was
absolutely breathtaking.
Otherworldly, like, because you had the sun coming down through that mist, like you said. And, you know, me and Gleb, we've been on that road in a car before.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Completely different world. It
Way
doesn't,
different.
Yeah.
Motorcycles just change the game.
Yeah.
You don't have a frame, you don't have a window or anything. You're just seeing the world.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just
and I don't know about you guys, but like that's been like a lifelong goal ever since I just got into motorcycles. Is like I need to take my bike to the coast and ride it.
Yep.
So when that first few moments hit, we're doing it. I'm just like, it was
perfect.
amazing.
I loved it.
Yeah.
Made all the heat just disappear.
It was worth it.
Yeah. Yep.
And I love the fact that part of the road is it's pretty high elevation.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not only riding along like the ocean, you're kind of looking down at
Yeah.
it. So you can see the road winding down into Stinson Beach.
Yep.
Like from the top. And I remember like you guys were ahead of me and I turned around because I saw this beautiful view of Stinson Beach that I'm like, I just have to go and stop and take a picture. And it looked like something out of a movie set. It was just so beautiful. And then I finally caught up with you guys and the sun was still getting lower and I was like, it just looks so beautiful.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
And the roads were nice and twisty and there wasn't even that much traffic, which was amazing.
So and it's California, everybody would pull off for us anyway.
Yeah.
So we had like the whole road basically to ourselves and it just felt so good.
Yeah.
We passed through a bunch of small towns along the way to Dillon Beach, and then we finally got to Dillon Beach and camped out, which, like, we all kind of had this idea of, like, camping on the beach. You couldn't quite see the ocean from where we were, but it was close enough that you could walk over to it. And
So on the other side of the sand dune.
Yeah. And I remember, like, that sea air and the sea breeze just felt so amazing, especially after being in the heat so much.
Yeah.
What did you guys think about camping that first time? Did you?
Camping was, I mean, it's a campground. There were RVs everywhere and there were people yelling and kids playing tag and stuff, but it was nice. It was nice to camp off the bike.
Yeah.
For sure.
It was really cool.
And on the beach.
Yes.
And on the beach, close enough,
Well, we ended up being like, just by chance, where our camp spot was next to that guy who had two ADV bikes. Him and his wife rode their ADV bikes as well.
They had their Tenere 700s.
Yeah.
Yep. They also had this massive RV with a garage in the back that they stored C700s in it, which
he's showing it to us, and we're all just like, whoa.
Yeah. Wow. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Garage.
In this economy? And but it was a pretty nice spot, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And that was my first time moto camping.
Yeah.
And I was like, this isn't
It was
too
only
bad
my
at all.
second time.
Yeah.
And it was,
my second time
awesome.
too.
It wasn't too bad at all. I kind of learned that I'm like, I wouldn't mind a little bit of lighter like camping gear to pack on the bike, but that's about it.
Yeah.
And maybe a little bit of a smaller tent, just because mine kind of packs down a little bulky. But overall, I had a good time camping on the beach. And then after Dillon Beach, we rode up to Fort Bragg, which the entirety of that day took place on Highway 1 on the Pacific Coast Highway.
The best.
And that was probably my favorite part of the trip,
that
at
was
least.
so good.
Because that road is just never ending.
It's never ending, curved, smooth.
Yep.
Just so good.
Good
So
pavement.
good.
There's a few areas where there was like construction going on, so it was like down to one
Just
lane.
because most of the mountains washing away on the coast is
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's fine. Luckily, it didn't happen while we were there.
Yeah. What was the first town that we went through? Was Bodega Bay, right?
Yeah,
Yep.
Bodega Bay, and we got the crab sandwiches there.
delicious.
I coordinated ordering a new tire because I underestimated how much
Oh, yeah.
it was going to
We'll
wear.
Yep.
So
Do you want to
luckily-
tell us a little bit about that while we're on that subject?
yeah.
What kind of? At what point did you realize like this tire is not gonna make it the rest of the trip?
I think it was once our gas stop when we were going from Tahoe to Dillon Beach.
Okay.
Because it got really hot again, and then at the gas stop, I'm looking at that tire. I'm like, "Oh, we have some off-roading we still need to do."
Yeah.
And I'm almost to my wear bars.
Yeah.
And I think it's the heat that killed that tire.
Probably.
It's just straight heat. So.
And those tires they were stock.
Yeah,
tires
stock
on the
the
KTM.
Pirelli Scorpion STRs. People get roughly 6,500 miles on them if you're easy on them.
Yeah.
I'm not easy on
No,
my
you're
tires. And I think at that point I was at about 6,500 miles.
Yeah.
So, yeah. What we got service after we left when we were getting food at Bodega Bay and started perusing Tusk tires and Rocky Mountain and started looking at shops in Fort Bragg. So, coordinated all that, and luckily the tire got there before we even got there. So,
which is pretty awesome.
Yeah,
that's pretty quick. Props to Rocky Mountain for
no kidding.
shipping that
Shout out.
Yeah, if they're listening to this, props to Rocky Mountain.
They deliver, kind of.
Yeah. So Emerson was able to get his new tire on while we were in Fort Bragg.
Yep.
But to get to Fort Bragg, we rode along the Highway 1, and like you guys said, it's just never-ending twisty roads.
Yeah.
What was your
Heavenly.
We didn't stop at too many spots. I wanted to stop at that Russian
we stopped
colony
there
at Fort Ross, and then
because really it was that was a shorter ride day.
Oh yeah,
it was only 200 miles, if that.
3 hours from Bodega Bay or Dillon Beach.
Yeah. So we only stopped for gas, I think, one time.
Just one time, just to top off.
And then we stopped at the Russian place,
Yeah.
and that was about it.
And then just one overlook, I think, just to grab some photos here and there.
Which we were pretty close to our Airbnb at that point.
So
we showed up to Airbnb in the day time, which might have been the only time that happened, I think.
No, the first day we showed up during daytime.
Oh yeah, I guess that was.
Because we got there at 6.
It's all of our camping that we showed up.
So we showed up late to camping both times, and the second time was extra late because we'll get to it in a second here, because that road was it made that Tahoe road look a little.
Anytime I had
easy.
input on where we were going, it might have messed us up.
A little bit, but we don't hate you for it because it was still a lot of fun.
Oh, it was totally worth it.
So we got to Fort Bragg and we rode along the Pacific Coast Highway. What was your guys' favorite part about the highway in general?
Oh, man, it was just so, the whole thing's just so good. It's just every time you think, oh wow, that was the best view I could have gotten, you come up around another bend and it's just the best view that you can get.
Just days of nonstop improving views are just all.
Yeah.
I was never disappointed.
That spot where we stopped and took a bunch of pictures, and that was
because you can just see
awesome.
the coastline sweeping your.
It's like, wow, we got to ride that.
Yep, exactly. I think what I like, there's a couple of times where it'd be following the coast and there was a slight incropping, or it would go inland a little bit and then come back out, and then there was a couple of spots I remember we're riding from the top. And then you can kind of see where the road's going. It's twisting down, and then goes across a river or something, and then twists back up to go along the coast. And I was just seeing the road you're on, and then on the other side, there's more of it after the twist. You're holy shit, this is amazing.
Well, and for me, I love the ocean. I love being on the coast, and it's so now I get to combine it with motorcycles. So even when we had to kind of go inland, like you're saying, it was still beautiful. Inland.
Yeah, it was beautiful. It's just forest on one side, the ocean on the other.
Because I think that's really kind of the first time, other than I've been in San Diego, but that's the first time I've been in an environment where you're at the beach and you also have giant pine, redwoods and stuff like that.
It's crazy.
Because every time I've been to the beach, it's in Mexico or it's in Hawaii.
Yeah.
They don't have that.
Palm trees or just sand.
Yep. That's the first cold beach experience I think I've ever had.
I think it was it looked beautiful. It made me it made me want to keep just riding through Oregon, Washington, all the way up to Canada.
Next trip.
It's maybe
Fort Bragg North.
Fort Bragg North.
It would be so beautiful to do that. I really loved where it was just you could see the road from one side of a hill on the other, and it just keeps on going and going.
Yeah.
And then we eventually got to Fort Bragg, where we had a very nice Airbnb, which was significantly bigger.
Oh yeah.
Than our first day Airbnb.
We actually had space.
Yeah, we each had our own room basically.
Yeah.
Emerson picked the living room, which was and
very cool of me, I know.
Yeah, I know. Such a good friend.
You guys didn't have the beds.
But Emerson we each had our own room essally, which was kind of nice because that first Airbnb was a little
studio
cramped.
pretty much, and I was sleeping in a closet.
Yeah.
So
We put Emerson in the closet. And so it was really nice, and that whole area was just beautiful.
Yeah.
It was only in the 60s. The temperature was nice and cool.
Chilly.
It was a little
almost.
chilly. Yeah, it was chilly. I remember sleeping in the bedroom. I was like, I'm just gonna leave the window up and turn the fan off because it was it was actually getting a little cold in there.
I remember in the morning too. I think for the last morning there, it was pretty chilly.
It was in the 50s.
Yeah.
So honestly, it felt nice after being in the heat. So I'm
absolutely.
I'm gonna take this as much as I can before we head back east, and then the first or the full day we had at Fort Bragg, we rode a little bit further up the Pacific Coast Highway, and then we got to the Usal Road. which probably was my favorite off-road bit that we did. Even though
because you picked it.
Because I picked it. But also, like, I mean, the views from it were amazing.
Oh yeah.
Like going to the campsite, going to Jackson
incredible.
Meadows later on was also a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But that coastal view from that road was just incredible.
Yeah.
It's just nonstop views on views on views.
Yeah. And then basically the road starts off Highway 1. It's called Usal Road, and it's part of the Lost Coast Highway.
Yeah.
And once we kind of got on the road, went up a little bit, it just opens up to this view of the coast. And as you keep riding it, you can start to see the beach that we were going to. It's called Usal Beach, and it's only accessible by dirt. So there's a bunch of like
it's isolated.
4x4s there,
Couple dirt bikes, stuff like that.
bikes. But I just remember seeing the views from up there and seeing that beach below. I'm just getting the sense of like, it just felt adventurous because you're like, that's where I'm going.
Yep.
Like I'm here now, but that's where I'm going to be.
Yeah.
Right.
Is down there.
Yeah.
And I really loved how that road just kind of winded and twisted through, going along the hills along the coast and then going through like a forest.
Yep.
And such a cool experience.
Yeah.
Some steep sections.
Yeah.
Some sandy, deep sections.
Yep. A little
Yeah.
bit.
Well, for me, like that was like, I would say that was probably my favorite day too. Despite with how I was scared thinking about getting back up that hill.
I think that road was a good balance of it wasn't too challenging.
Yeah.
We knew it was going to be a little bit of a challenge to get out of there, but it was worth getting in there. Like there was a prize at the bottom that we could see.
Exactly.
And it was like, oh, this is totally worth it.
Yeah.
It's so pretty.
But then when we did get going up, as new adventure off-road riding riders, I guess, for me anyway, it was much like a little nervous at first, get going, and like again, just you're in that scenery and everything you're around, and you start doing it, and it's working.
Yeah,
it's working. It's working. And so like I don't know, it was just like a nice like combination of like I'm in my environment, I'm at the beach, I'm on a motorcycle, and I gotta like grow as a rider.
Yeah.
That's like one of my friends is here, and then there's another guy.
Yeah.
We can't embarrass ourselves, okay? And then so we rode down this road, and then it slowly made its way down. I was a little nervous on the downhill sections, but luckily none of them went into like any cliffs too much. So I was like, okay, this isn't too bad. Just make sure you drop it, into the road if I drop the bike. There was one time where I did almost drop my bike because I ended up, I think we were kind of coming up on that final like downhill section. Yeah. And I think you went first, Mitch went first, and then Emerson, you were right in front of me, and I stopped right behind you, and I accidentally killed my bike. So it's just kind of like,
I remember that.
It just jerked to a stop, and I was like, whoa, because I didn't have my feet down. I almost dropped it, but I caught it, luckily. And then we just continued on, and we got to the beach. There was a little bit of a water crossing, just like a tiny puddle in there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I got stuck in mud.
Emerson decided to keep on going.
I thought the beach was going to be more firm. It wasn't, and so I buried the bike a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. And then you tried to do
I tried to elephant walk it out of there.
How'd that go?
It wasn't smooth. I don't that with the tires still being worn at that point because they hadn't been replaced. That rear tire had no traction whatsoever, so it was just I'm bike over as far as I could and throttle and
going into that. I was behind you. I was like, I saw that happen. I'm not going in there.
Yeah, smart move. Here. I was just like, I'm just gonna park.
I'll guinea pig it.
Luckily, you were able to turn around, and then we kind of carefully parked our bikes right near basically where the entrance to the beach is, because there is no way we were riding out anywhere further because the sand was soft.
Not with heavy bikes like that either.
Yeah,
And I feel like if we try to push ourselves and be like, oh no, maybe we can do it, we would just end up digging the bikes out for the rest of the day.
Luckily, like the bike that gets stuck is the lightest bike.
That's true.
If we would have buried either one of your guys's, that would have been significantly harder, I think.
Well, like I told you guys, this is like when we're at the beach. I walked back to the bikes to get my snacks, and there was that guy on like a 250 or something even smaller. And he had buried it. It was, like luckily he could get it out easy. Like if that little bike's getting buried in like that,
we'd be stuck all day. And then we just kind of chilled at the beach for maybe like an hour or so.
An hour and a half.
We didn't get in the water because it's freezing cold, but just sat there and enjoyed the ocean view and reminisced about this cool road that we just did that we went down on and
just hanging out with FDR.
hanging out with FDR because Mitch had a blanket over his legs or a towel. Also, if you're wondering, if you're watching this on YouTube, you may notice a brace on Mitch's knee.
Not from the trip.
It was not from the trip.
Something way dumber than that.
Yeah.
None of us were injured. Mitch was being a good boyfriend and helping his girlfriend move, and then he hit his knee.
Yep. So,
Hard.
Yeah.
Pretty hard. So I will not be riding bikes for a little while, it seems.
Which is a bummer.
Womp
Yep.
womp.
Yep. Once that we got to the beach, it was time to head back up that road, which I don't. For some reason, I'm not as scared of going uphill. It's the downhill that I'm.
That's
more
so
like,
weird to
worried
me.
about.
I'm way more comfortable on the downhills.
Really,
Same.
I don't know.
Especially after the class, because I know,
Yeah.
I know what it
Yeah.
feels like to lock up the rear
Yeah.
tire. I can slide down this entire hill if I really need to.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Like I feel like I wouldn't say it's like my favorite thing, especially when it's chunky,
Yeah.
like what we've done. But like I feel more comfortable going down.
Yep.
I feel more in control. Whereas going up, I'm trying to like hang on to the bike a little bit.
Balance throttle and
Yeah.
where am I gonna put my foot because they can't reach the ground. So
Yeah. So,
So I don't know why, but yeah, but I felt like pretty good about it.
Yeah.
And I knew going up means we have
you
to come
led
back
that one,
down.
I think, coming out or no?
No. That was me.
Mitch led it.
Yeah.
Mitch led it. And then, we got up and then stopped a second to enjoy the view for one last time up at the top. And then you guys got to the road, the paved part road, a little bit before me because I was taking it nice and slow down the hills.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
The downhill sections. But I felt pretty good. I just remember what we did in the class to lean back as far as I could and modulate that rear brake a little bit and a little bit of the front, but mainly just keep the rear brake and then first gear and just slowly inch my way down, head up. And I made it down without dropping the bike or feeling like super hesitant.
Yeah.
There was only that one last section basically where it kind of curves towards the cliff side and then back towards the road where it was a little bit more a little more loose rock, a little silty. That's the only spot that I was like really concerned about. And I don't even remember my bike slipping on it
I had a blast on
at
the
that
road.
point. So I just
Loved it.
got down and met up with you guys at the pavement. And I was like, all right, that wasn't too bad. It kind of helped me build my little downhill confidence a little bit on that.
And then I left you guys again.
Then you left us because we
Hit pavement and
You
had
were
to
off.
get the last bit of that tire out.
yeah, that's true.
You paid for the tire. You gotta use it.
the whole thing.
Yeah, exactly. Should have did a burnout on the last day.
Actually, I don't know if I've ever done a burnout. I can't. It's hard to do a burnout if you can't touch the ground.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
true.
That's the problem.
That's true.
That's fair.
We could have held the
Damn
bike.
legs.
Just hold the bike for him.
Cool.
Yeah. And we eventually made it back to Fort Bragg, and once again, kind of riding not towards sunset, not during sunset, but we made it back to Fort Bragg very quick.
Yeah.
I remember a little concerned because they're like, we're gonna have like find a random place to eat again.
It seemed like it took us a super long time to get there.
Well, if I remember right, it was getting there. We hit like every single construction
That's
light.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
and
know,
then riding back, it was a little bit more green.
Yeah.
And I remember we got back in like 30 minutes. Or
Well,
something.
we were booking it too. I mean, obviously you were, but even me and you, Gleb, even we were going pretty quick too.
We're going pretty quick, and I was like, oh, cool. We're
everything
back
legal. We never broke any traffic laws.
So follow the speed limits all the time.
All the time, every day.
We got back to Fort Bragg, and then we just kind of had a nice early evening there.
Yeah.
And we went to Noyo Fish Company.
Oh my gosh.
Had the best fish and chips of my life.
Oh.
You got fried prawns. Emerson got
those
fried
were
prawns.
the best pieces of shrimp I think I've ever had in my entire
And then
life.
they brought us out some more because they had leftovers because they were closing. So we're like, all right,
those
I'm gonna
prawns
eat
were
some more.
delicious.
Those
So
prawns
good.
were good.
So
The
good.
fries were good. The beer was good.
Yep.
I threw their stickers, the sticker they gave me on my bike.
I think I've worn that shirt like 3 times already.
Nice.
It's in my regular rotation.
I
now.
need to go and put the sticker on somewhere on my bike.
Somewhere,
probably.
yeah.
Oh, so cool.
Look at we're
Delicious
turning
food.
into true adventure riders. We're collecting stickers along the way. We just don't have metal panniers.
Just like what I do.
on.
It's just like I do in the Bronco.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then we went to Glass Beach.
Yep.
There,
Internet
which-
was out that day.
The internet, and the whole town, like
I think it was
no
for the
service.
wildfire.
Something like that. That's what the guy mentioned. And so we just kind of went to Glass Beach, took some pics of the sunset, and enjoyed that. Went back to Airbnb and played Sorry.
Drank a bottle of whiskey and
Drank a bottle of whiskey.
a bourbon, I think.
Bourbon.
I can't remember what we got.
It was a bourbon.
Yeah.
And then played some Sorry because there were some board games there. And
no
and then
internet, so
we had no internet, so that's what we did. And then we went to bed. And
Our own
then
little family home
there
evening
was
nights.
internet the next morning, luckily. And the next day was pretty
Slow start.
Full day.
It was a very slow start.
Yeah, because you had to get your tire first of all.
So I slowed us down because I had to get the tire. Tire shop didn't open till 10, I think. He wasn't there at 10. I think he rolled in at like 10:30 or 10:45. So the tire got done. I went and got lunch. You guys wrapped up the Airbnb.
Yep.
Once the new tire was on, then we hit the road.
And I don't remember what road we took out of Bodega Bay. I remember we went like south.
9?
Maybe.
Sounds familiar.
I remember we went south a little bit and then pretty much went east.
Super awesome road though.
Beautiful road.
Yeah. Very
Beautiful
twisty.
road. Yeah. Before, like, while I just remember this, something about like a lot of the towns we went through, like especially along the coast, they reminded me a lot of like European towns versus like ones you see here in like Utah.
Yeah.
Where it's just like very flat, straight roads, very just grids. Some of those small towns like Bodega Bay, Dillon Beach, like
Point Reyes
that we rode through.
Sea
Yeah.
Haven.
Yeah.
Or Sea Ranch.
Sea Ranch.
With the cool Swedish houses.
Yeah. Like they didn't even feel like American towns because they're built along this like squiggly road.
They're built different.
And even going like inland a little bit
Yeah.
on our way back east, we passed through like a town where we got like that Dairy Queen or Baskin Robbins, like
Baskin-Robbins,
ice cream a little bit.
It's a good call on that one.
Yeah.
It started getting hot again.
It started getting
Shocker.
hot. And even those towns kind of felt like okay, it's like a town. You like enter it and then you leave it. There's like a noticeable separation between like the town and then the rest.
Yep.
And then as we got further back east, it kind of turned more into your traditional American towns.
Yeah.
And it also got really, really hot.
Again.
Once again. We stopped for gas, I think once or twice there.
Yeah. Yuba City, I think.
Yuba, yeah. And then our goal that day was to reach Jackson Meadows Reservoir.
We did.
And we did. And that's where we ran
We
into
did.
some eventful situations.
We broke the rule again.
We broke the
Yeah.
rule. We took way longer to get there than we thought.
Yes.
And we got there after dark.
Yep. And we separated.
We did separate it.
Big, huge, loose, rocky section. You went up it like a champ.
Somehow, I just got up
banged my
there.
shin against my bike.
Yeah,
I almost dropped it. I had to put my foot down. But so what we did was another section of the BDR, and ironically, this was the easier
Another
section.
twisty, fun gravel road.
Yeah, and it
Started
did
out-
start
yeah,
off
started
that
out
way.
fine.
It
Started out
off
fine.
nice and twisty.
Yeah.
We started at a Goodyear bar.
Yep.
And then headed south from there to I cannot remember what that road is called. Ridge Road.
Mountain House Road.
Yeah.
That was the first initial one. Then we kind of got this to like Y intersection at the very top, and then we're like, you were already starting to get a little. You were already starting to get a little hesitant because we were already hitting like a few
Sections.
loose rock
There was
You
some
could see
sections.
us, like, that's the end of it. But then there started getting more and more and
Yeah.
more of those.
Once I couldn't see the end of those sections, that's where I was like, I don't know.
We stopped and took a small little break, and then I was like, okay, I'll just continue on.
Yep.
And just try to power through it. And then we got to the one section where
I wish I had a picture of it.
I wish I had my GoPro was
some,
going.
360 cam footage
there you
of
go.
that section.
I wish my GoPro had been going when we were stuck.
Yeah.
So.
You could see me drop it
Yeah.
like 3 times.
Yeah.
And then that section, so I'll try to describe it the best I can. You guys can help me out. It was a little bit of rutted out, like where it was big enough to fit a car. Like a car could drive.
It was a 2-track.
A four-wheel drive car can get through there. But where those tracks are, it was very rocky, and there were kind of bigger.
It almost looked like a
rocks.
riverbed.
Yeah.
To be honest. Like it's just a big, bouldery riverbed.
And as soon as I saw that coming up, I was already going. I was like, okay, there's no turning back now. I just got to like plow through this. I remember I stood up aggressively on my bike, really leaned forward over the handlebars.
Probably grunted.
A little bit. Lots of grunts, lots of F-bombs dropping left and right. And I just remember my arms just like flailing back and forth there. I'm trying to remember to keep loose on the handlebars, but I can just feel the bike like moving all over the place, especially in the front. That front wheel was dancing all over the place. And I just kept the throttle like as even as I could. There was a few times probably where I like blipped it a little bit just because I'm trying to like keep that balance. I was white knuckling. And at one point, like I felt my bike starting to get like really, really loose and shaking. That's where I ended up putting my foot down a couple of times to keep it from falling. And then I think either the foot peg or my crash bars like just banged my shin against them right above the boot too. I had high boots on too, and it was like an inch above where the boot ends. I was like, of course. Yeah. And I got to a part. I got past that part, and I was like, I am not going back.
And at this point, you're out of sight.
Yeah.
Out of comm range.
Yep, I was out of comm range, and I parked, and I was like, all right, they'll catch up in a second.
Yep.
And I'm sitting there waiting. I'm like, it's been a bit more than a second. It's been like 10 minutes now. I'm just like, I was starting to get a little bit worried.
Yep.
So I.
Meanwhile, at the bottom of the hill.
I think the only reason you messed up is because of where I got stuck.
I'm glad you said that.
Yes.
Because I have been telling myself that too.
Yeah.
I think that line would have been the easier line.
Yeah.
But yeah, once you got stopped, I'm like, well, I'm not stopping. So I picked that left lane because I think you went up the right side too.
Yep, I did.
I went up the left lane, and that kicked my ass.
Yeah.
Just beat me up, tossing all over the place, and I finally dropped it.
Yep.
And then
How did you when you dropped it? What were you doing? Kind of.
I think I just lost all my momentum because there was just the boulders just got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
And I wasn't able to throttle out past that. So yeah, I just kind of. Then it was the first drop was just I've dropped it like that 100 times. It feels like now.
Yeah.
Just kind of fall off and stand up on the side, on the bank. But then we got you turned around.
Yep, because at that point I had lost all confidence in like my ability to take on this terrain
With your tires, your 90-10 tires pretty much.
Yeah, whatever they are.
80-20 tire.
Yeah.
I don't know what I was thinking, or I guess I'm not thinking, when I just didn't consider tires for the trip. I was like, oh, these tires got life, and we're going to be doing some...
Same thing I did.
I got new tires
Except for I just
before the trip.
shotgunned a new tire on my on my credit card and called it a day.
I got new tires before the trip, so
Yeah, so like I said, I just lost all confidence at this point in my ability as an new off-road rider to tackle this, plus with my tires and a big heavy bike.
Yeah.
It just, to me, it wasn't a good combination.
Yeah, that section. In other spots, I would kind of not push you. I would coerce you guys maybe a little bit to like, oh, we'll keep going. I wasn't even gonna try on that section because if I was dropping it and I was questioning, ooh, am I gonna have to turn
we'd
around?
definitely be questioning.
Well, and that's well, because after you helped me get turned around and we got your bike up the
Yep.
first time, I hung around. So let's see if he
Yeah.
makes it up.
And we said that. I was like, if I can make it up this, cool. If not, if I drop it again, I'm just gonna turn around and go with you. Because we were splitting up again, like you shouldn't.
Yeah.
So I got most of the way, and then I dropped it again.
Yep.
But me being me, and this drop was
Worse.
harder.
That's the one where you fell with the bike.
Yeah,
right?
so that's when I fell onto the right side. I don't fall gracefully on the right side, apparently. And I came down, and something hit my rib.
Probably a rock.
Probably something, and it there
was only a few
it never
rocks.
bruised or just a couple rocks out there. Never bruised or anything, but 2 weeks after that, it was a sharp pain, I think.
Really?
So yeah,
Bruised a
it
rib
hurt
or
to
something
cough.
in there.
But it never visibly I could see anything. So
Is
I
it
remember
better
you
now?
yeah, it feels fine now.
I remember that next morning you sneezed and you bumped
Oh
over.
yeah, yeah, it hurt pretty bad the next day.
Yeah.
While that was all happening, I'm just sitting there at the top, and I was getting worried, and I was like, I parked my bike, I started walking down to try to find him, because I'm like, I don't really want to turn my bike around on this road.
Yeah,
But if I didn't see either one of you, I would have ended up turning around.
You would have
anyways,
had to.
because
I'm
like, well, I don't know where I'm going.
He's
I have
thinking we
maps on my
collided
phone,
into each other.
But then I'd be like, shit, something bad happened,
Yeah.
because I haven't seen any one of them for 20 minutes at that point.
Yep.
And I remember I started walking down, and I feel like I was pretty close to where we were,
Yeah.
hiking back down.
And then you heard that sweet sound of a KTM
Yep.
parallel
I was like,
twin.
oh my god, one of them's alive. And I saw you cruising up, and then just keep going.
Yep.
There's a spot to stop there.
Yep.
And then you told me that, Mitch, you ended up turning around, which I don't blame you.
I don't either.
Yeah,
Not
And
at all.
to that end, I think, I was kicking myself. I was kind of hating myself pretty hard.
Which
for
is no
turning
way
around.
to push past that either.
Yeah.
No,
Um,
it's hard. Yeah.
Yeah.
You would have dropped the bike.
Yeah.
You would have.
I
Or
mean-
we would have had to walk it up, and who knows how long that would have taken.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and so I don't know. At the end of the day, I made a judgment call for the information we had at the time.
Yeah.
But the route I took once I got back, it took me a little longer. But that road was awesome.
Yeah.
It was just like the Pacific Coast Highway road. It was all smooth. There was almost
Twisty.
no tar snakes. It was twisty,
Yeah.
Oh, that's
hilly,
awesome.
Yeah.
pretty vibey town. Two
Yeah.
towns I got to pass through. So
It's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
There was one part I forgot to mention. Before we got to that road, there was that oil slick.
Oh.
on the road.
yeah,
I almost
right.
ended up going down.
Yeah.
Because I did not pick a right line.
Oh no, that was on the day. That was the next day on the way home.
No, it was that day.
No, that was on the way back to Nevada.
No, it was coming out of Fort Bragg.
Yep.
It was when we were riding through that forest.
It's really good. It was before ice cream.
Yeah, it was before ice cream.
Okay.
Yeah. And there was a BMW in front that dumped its oil on the road. And
Germans.
I remember coming up into the turn and I didn't notice it at first. And I went down the middle of the turn and I felt my back wheel.
And I was in front of you guys, but typical me, I was out of comm range, so I couldn't hey, there's oil coming up or anything.
And I remember I crossed that middle, which I usually try not to do on turns. I just try to pick a line and just stick through it. But that turn, there was other cars and it was kind of like okay, we'll just slow down a little bit more because it's a little bit of a sharper turn. I remember my back wheel slid on pavement, and then
we saw your video of it.
Yeah, and I front end was slapping back and forth. If I was going any faster, I feel like that could have been a high side easily, which probably would have ended the trip for me then and there.
I wish I'd had my camera going for it because it looked more violent from my angle than it is on your camera.
It felt very violent.
Yeah, I was like, that could have been a high side.
Yeah. Luckily, I'm assuming the traction control in the bike kicked in at one point, and I just made sure not to lock up my arms, just kind of let the bike flail around for a second, and I got back up and just kept going.
Yep.
But yeah, I think I shot myself a little bit on that.
I would have. I've never had that in however many years I've been riding.
That was the first time
I've never had that
happen. Yeah, and that was a little scary. Not gonna lie.
I bet. Yeah, I mean,
we've had a lot of those moments this year.
Yeah, and I think me and you had a couple of times where we got a little target fixated on a sharp turn.
Yeah,
and there was one where I kind of almost. Not went off. I didn't go off the road or anything, but I was I had to straighten my bike out
a little bit
mid-turn.
Overshot more than I wanted to.
Yeah, and I was just I'm going a little fast. Let's slow down, tilt the bike back up, slow down, and take this turn a little slower. Yeah. Mitch was the smartest one out of all of us, apparently.
Yep. Captain Slow in the back.
Yeah. That's okay.
I didn't feel slow. I was just going at a speed I could ride.
Yep. That's true. And so back to this off-road section. Mitch went off through Downeyville and Sierraville to the campsite. Emerson and I continued up the dirt road, and that was the hardest section.
Yeah.
That was the hardest section by far.
That was the gatekeeper, and then the only real tough parts after that seemed to be just silty moon dust sections and
which wasn't even that bad in comparison. And they weren't even on hills. It was just more of a smooth road.
Yeah, once we gained that ridgeline, you almost hold that ridgeline the whole time.
And it was kind of funny because at one point it turns into pavement, and me and you were both like,
we shouldn't.
I was first, and we were like, we shouldn't tell Mitch it was pavement. But and there was another road that if you were
it ended up hitting dirt again anyways.
But there was another paved road that went up from Yuba City up to that same spot. We were we could have done this, but we didn't know.
Yeah,
we didn't know. It shows
next time.
It shows paved on the map, but you never know because it could be paved, where it's here's a glimpse of pavement and then it's just gone. We took the route that BDR had mapped out because that's the route we knew.
It's twisty, gravelly, fun roads.
Yeah, exactly. Super fun. But the road that Emerson and I ended up on, it was just paved for a minute, and then after that, it just turned to dirt again. But it was nice and kind of smooth. Dirt.
I wish we had more time.
I wish we had more time
because it was a blast and the views were awesome.
I wish I had time to stop and fly my drone up because we were there pretty much during sunset.
Yep.
Yeah,
and you could see that
dark.
orange glow lighting up the mountains, and it was incredible. I would have loved to have spent more time up there.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, it was getting dark.
Yes.
And I was in front of you. I was leading.
The whole time.
I was leading.
I still haven't looked at my air filter on that. I'm pretty sure it needs cleaned.
And then I remember there was one spot where it got kind of silty, and I remember my front end kind of lost the traction for a second. I was like, whoa, dipped to the side a little bit, but I held it together, didn't put my foot down. But I think one of the big things I learned, especially in the off-road sections, you really just got to let the bike do what it do its thing.
Yeah.
You're there to kind of point it in a direction, and then beyond that, the bike just it wants to stay up, and it'll work itself out if you lose traction. And I feel like it was really noticeable on this trip.
Yeah.
And then we finally made it to the campsite. It was plenty dark. Emerson and I dropped off our bags, our gear, and then we went looking for
a rescue
Mitch.
Mission.
Yeah. Luckily, he wasn't too far from.
No, we didn't even get back to the main road. I don't think.
Yeah, I was we weren't even 10 minutes from the campsite.
Yeah, it wasn't bad at all.
When you guys came across me, so.
And I remember I don't think our comms quite connected yet, and I remember we saw a single headlight. We're like, oh my god!
Like either someone has a burnout headlight or it's Mitch.
It's Mitch.
Well, and I saw
for some reason you started turning around. I was like, no, don't just keep going. And then we made it to the campsite, which was beautiful.
Yeah.
We woke up
in
the
the
next morning to finally see it.
Yeah. And then it wasn't nearly as packed as the. It was full, but it wasn't as tight as.
Yeah, and there was at least some trees, so you get a little bit of like separation from the nearby campsites.
Yep.
I did drive out of the campsite in the middle of the night to.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
Take a photo of the night sky because the night sky there was just beautiful. It was far enough from any major town that the Milky Way, and I like photography, so it's like I'm like I got to do this. I'll feel left out if I don't. So. I went and did that, and then we just kind of chilled.
Just ate some ramen and
went to bed, basically.
Yeah, because again, it was a rougher day than we expected it to be.
But it was a blast.
Yeah.
That was a good day. I feel like I learned a lot.
Ton.
Especially on that day specifically.
Yeah.
Hills are hard, up or down.
But maybe they're a little easier now.
They are. I feel a little more confident on them now. And mind you, like we were doing this section fully loaded. We had both our bags on. While all the other off-road sections we've done to that point,
we unloaded.
Yeah, we unloaded. We had only one bag.
Yeah. I could see that making a huge difference on yours because your bags are just so heavy.
Yeah, they are. And I had my camera bag as well, so it was like a lot of weight on the back of that bike. Maybe it helped with traction a little bit.
Coulda.
But going up those rocks, I was just like, this is nerve-wracking, white-knuckling experience.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I still really enjoyed that day, even though I turned around. It's like I said, one day I was beating myself up about it, but on the other hand, it's like, I feel like maybe you have to do that sometimes.
Yeah. It's the same thing. I'll bring it. Hey, when we talk about snowboarding, it's the same thing for snowboarding. Like you look at something and it's like,
I'm not feeling this.
I'm not gonna do it. Yeah.
But sometimes you have no choice because that's the only way down. So you just
gotta
inch your way down slowly.
If you have an exit plan, you should take it.
Well, and I wonder too. It's like maybe I could have, or maybe I would have been willing to try. It
would have been worth it though
if I had more. Well, if I had better tires.
Well,
for
that
was.
Totally, yeah.
Because a part of my time and
and again, I'm not making excuses. I was like, no way, I can't do this part.
Yeah.
But it's like, but maybe like if I had tires that I felt like could actually move an inch without slipping out.
Yeah.
Because those rocks were gnarly. So.
And then after camping, we pretty much stopped by the lake one more time. We got breakfast at like that nice.
Oh, yeah, the farmhouse.
It was lunch at that point.
The farmhouse.
Yeah, the farmhouse cafe in Sierraville.
Awesome.
Great food. If you're in the area, stop by there. Just
can't miss it. It's on the 4-way stop in town.
It's like the only food place in that town. It's right next to a barber shop.
Yep.
And the barber was eating food there.
He might have been a little drunk too.
I think he was.
You knew it was a barber because he wouldn't stop talking about
hair. That's very true. Yes.
And then we stopped by the lake one more time. Yep. I took a dip. It was cold.
It was too cold.
And then we made our way to Reno through like I forgot what the pass was called, but it was a road that went from Reno pretty much straight.
We took a different one.
Yeah, straight to from Tahoe straight to Reno and cut through the mountains. And that was a pretty
awesome. It was a super awesome road too.
And it just still amazes me like how different the two sides look.
Yeah.
So you enter like the Tahoe area and it's like green and forest. And then as you're coming out of that area, you can see just brown desert for miles. As soon as you like get over the ridgeline, it's like, whoa.
Looks like it was the Mount Rose Highway.
Mount Rose. Okay. And that was pretty much the end of our trip. We spent the night in Reno because we sinned. We gambled, lost all our money.
Yeah. I was up for a while, but just like the off-road sections, I can't walk away.
Yeah.
I'm glutton for punishment.
It was so good. So what's kind of like the biggest like lessons and takeaways you guys learned? Let's about your bikes, about like motor camping, or just traveling for such a long distance and such a long time on the bike. Like, what did you learn? What would you like do different next time, or kind of like how would you change things up?
I think for me, I would get tires before.
I'll just go ahead and interrupt and say that's one of mine too.
Yeah. I would get tires before, but honestly, outside of that, I think my bags were dialed the way I wanted them. I didn't ever catch myself like rearranging anything. I didn't catch myself like, oh, why did I bring that? I didn't really need it. I think the bike was pretty dialed. And I think on the stops and stuff, like I've just got more room on my bike compared to you guys because I'm so much shorter, so I can like
Probably a little
move
bit.
around, move more. So I don't
Yeah.
need to stop nearly as much, I think, as you guys.
Yeah, I was getting
but-
a little tired, a little
Yeah.
sweat rash, on my
Saddle sore.
Yeah.
But again, like I don't know, I'm comfortable in uncomfortable situations a lot, so
Yeah.
like I'd rather push through on stuff like that than like stop and take time and all that good stuff.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
What about like? So you wouldn't really do too much.
No,
Too much.
I
Different.
think the bike is perfect for it, for me
Nice.
at least.
Well, worth getting an adventure bike then.
Absolutely.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, very happy with my
Yep.
decision.
They're the best.
Didn't have really any. Well, I had that weird turn signal malfunction,
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
but outside of that, I didn't really have too many issues. I think
Yeah.
with the bike.
Which is good.
Yeah.
I don't think any of us have any mechanical
No.
issues on our bikes at all,
Foot
which
pegs
is
coming
awesome.
off, but no
Yeah, my foot
mechanical
peg, one of
problems.
my passenger
Yeah.
foot peg flew off. That's about it.
And
Which
almost-
is the most random
yeah.
thing.
It flew off and almost took out my other knee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
What about you, Mitch? What's kind of like lessons learned? What would you do different next time
Besides tires.
besides tires? Yeah.
Well, one, I guess I'll start with like about my bike. I think the Scrambler, it is an adventure bike. It handles really well for everything that we did for like distance and road and moving. I don't mind not having full fairings, but if you have a bike that you're going to do a long distance tour on and you know your seat sucks, invest in a new seat. Because even with like the sheepskin,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was getting more and more saddle sore on there. I hate that stock seat now. But as far as like luggage and everything going, like I said, tires, and I'm gonna have to get some sort of like luggage system.
I think you need a rackless.
Yeah,
I'm gonna get
100%.
the heat shields for the exhaust and get the rackless probably. Because it's such a pain to pack everything in like a big old duffel bag and then a tent
Yeah.
and then a backpack for your
And then
clothes.
the thing that you need is buried in the
Yeah.
bottom of said bag. So
Yeah.
there's,
Yeah.
And I forgot to tell you guys this too. When I got home, I got off my bike and my luggage was like shifted. like
Oh, no.
really?
Yeah.
I didn't notice that at all when
I
we
didn't
were
either.
on our final stretch or anything.
I'd never noticed. I never
Before
felt
we
anything.
split.
Yeah, and like it didn't happen when we stopped. It was our last stop for gas because
Yeah.
everything was fine.
Yeah.
Huh.
But I got home and it was like kind of slumping off. I'm like,
Oh,
oh,
glad that didn't fall off
Yeah,
then.
no kidding.
yeah. So after that especially, I'm like, no more just throwing stuff on and tying it down with rock straps
Yeah.
and a
Yeah.
cargo net. I'm gonna see about getting an actual luggage system.
Yeah.
What about you, Gleb?
My setup was a little heavy. I felt like I'm an overpacker in general when it comes to traveling, whether it's on a bike or
It's true, he is.
Yeah. Or just traveling like to any trip.
Yeah.
Like I'll go on a weekend trip and I'll bring like extra clothes. I'm like, I didn't even wear this. Why the hell did I bring it?
Yeah.
And there was a couple of things that I brought on this trip that I didn't end up even wearing too much. I was like, this was a waste.
Well, when we got to Fort Bragg, our Airbnb,
Oh, yeah.
luckily she let us use the washer and dryer.
Yes.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. So we did get some clean clothes, which was nice. But I did have still like some extra clothes that I was like, I didn't even end up using this. So
I think
it's
I
like kind of a
wore-
bummer.
I brought enough to where if we weren't going to be able to do laundry, I had enough for that.
That's good.
And
I had
so-
enough underwear.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I had underwear and
That's it.
socks, and I brought enough shirts, but I wore the same pants
me too.
on most
Yeah.
of our days. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's like a couple of redundant things that I brought. I was like, I didn't end up using. So I think I would just be a little bit more mindful of that later.
Yeah.
And my camping, because I kind of separated my clothes into one bag and then my camping stuff in my other bag. And I have a pair of Moscow backcountry panniers, which are heavy already. They're like
35s, right?
10 pounds each. Yeah, they're 35. They're the 35 liters with the aux pucks on them. So they're already like heavy on their own. So I'm like, okay, I need to like figure out a nicer like balance or
Yeah.
lighter
Yeah.
load to this. And then my camping setup especially got a little heavy on that side because my tent's not super light. I kind of had like a little bit of a larger sleeping bag and sleeping pad, which those two compress down pretty well. But I think I do want to get like a lighter tent that packs smaller and
Yeah.
two just weighs a little bit less and just kind of keep it more organized because there's a couple of times where I'm just like, I just want to redo this because there's like stuff just
Yeah.
kind of like stacking on top of one another. So I think I'm just going to work on that next time.
I think like for me because my bags are 25 liters I think a piece, and like pulling my tent out of its normal stuff sack.
Yeah.
And just like shoving it in holes that I can find in that one camping bag.
Yeah.
It packed it up so well.
Yeah, I remember you saying that. So I think I might try something like that next time. In addition to getting like a little bit more of a compact tent.
Yeah.
And then other than that, though, like I was still very happy with my bags despite them being a little bit heavy.
Yeah.
But I also had my camera bag.
Yeah.
Which that was kind of like
it's a whole nother thing
big
that
pain
neither
point.
one of us have to worry about.
Yeah, and it was a big pain point because I bought a cargo rack to like put in the back of my bike so it doesn't have to sit on the seat the whole time, and strapping and unstrapping that each time did kind of become like tedious after a while. So I think I'm gonna revert back to my original idea where I'm just gonna save up and get a top box that can lock. So if I'm popping into like a restaurant, I don't have to worry about taking my camera bag with me, and I can just put a smaller, lighter camera bag in that top box that I can just grab and go for grabbing a quick photo. And I don't have to worry about like a camera backpack being strapped onto the back. I think that's the biggest improvement I want to make. And then having a top box, I mean, it'll just be kind of beneficial in general if I'm taking the bike to work or something like that. A little storage. I think they look goofy.
Oh, they do.
They look
so
super goofy. But I think
you get one that doesn't look like, because it seems like every time I see a top box, it sits like so far above everything. Like I almost would want one more rectangular than they are tall. It seems like they're always super tall, which they're probably for a reason, so you can fit taller stuff in there.
You can fit a whole helmet in the Triumph one.
Yeah.
And the reason I do want the Triumph one is I can use my ignition key to also lock and unlock it, which is nice.
Yeah.
So I think that's what I'm going to plan on getting next year. At least like the one consolation that I have for the top box, at least it's an adventure bike, so it kind of like looks more appropriate on it versus like if you put a top box on like a sports bike,
or
something like that, where it just looks stupid goofy on that. Like at least it's like a touring adventure bike, so it's like it kind of makes sense that it's on there. And I remember there was a YouTuber, Off She Goes, I think, that's her YouTube channel. And she kind of had like the soft panniers on each side, and then top box where she kept like her electronics. I'm like, I think that's the kind of setup that I would prefer to roll with for future rides and stuff. Just because I think it'll save a lot of heartache. It'll add a little bit more weight because those boxes
honestly,
are not light.
a box would give you a whole other spot to tie stuff down to.
That's true. Yeah.
Which would be nice too.
And so I think I'm just going to do that, despite it looking goofy. But at least the bike is kind of made for it too, so it won't look too bad.
Yeah.
Other than that, I was very happy with my bike. I did get new tires before the trip. I got my 12K service done before the trip, which involved the valve clearance check.
Yep.
And my bike had zero issues other than losing a passenger foot peg for some reason. It had zero issues on the entire ride. No electronic, no mechanical problems. I do have that oil cap issue where my oil slowly seeps out of the oil cap, so I'm going to find a new O-ring to put on that. Yep. But yeah, I think that's about it though.
Yeah, I mean, I think lastly, I just thought this too. Like, I really want that Moscow duffel bag that you have. That looked really nice.
Yeah.
Well, if you get the rackless setup, it comes with a top.
There we go. There we go.
You don't even need that.
Yeah, because that duffel I have is the Scout. I think it's called the Scout 30.
Yeah. Well, does the top come off, or I thought the rackless was all one piece?
I think it's disconnectable.
It's disconnectable.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sweet.
But I think the way the rackless is set up too, so you have like the bags themselves, but they have waterproof bags in them. So you just take those out instead of the whole rack. Or rackless.
Yeah. And that's in that video they just posted the same thing. He stuffs his tent.
Yeah, I did notice that
in that bag just to take up any free space, and then it's easier to.
I'm gonna try that next time and just kind of keep it light. So I think that's about it though.
Yeah, with the bikes, that was
That was awesome.
It was such a great trip and good company, and
I think on the next one I'm already talking about doing a BDR again in the next like 2 weeks, so possibly solo, which we'll see how that goes.
You'll have to let us know.
How it goes. See. But when it comes to definitely the off-road sections, I didn't plan enough. It seems like with every off-road section we hit.
Yeah.
Gaia isn't the greatest at distancing.
No.
And then you always need to overestimate how long it's going to take you to do
because between stops and things like that, and you're not going as fast off-road as you are on road.
Yeah, if you're going 20 miles an hour, it's going to take you an hour to go 20 miles, not like you're sitting on a highway. So.
I think the only off-road we did where it was like shorter and we got back on time was that Usal Road, because that was kind of like
Google
manageable.
kind of told us like, oh, it's only this amount of distance.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which on Gaia you can't
do that.
pinpoint
Nope.
point, and it won't just calculate for you.
And it's much harder on the BDR because there's a lot of those roads that don't really like Google or any navigation. So it doesn't. That's not a place. That's not the road it'll take you on. So it doesn't like it just ignores them.
Yeah, and I think. Well, I've thought about it since we've been back too. It's like I think next time we need to plan like the off road. We need to plan the day around the off road section.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas we were just kind of like, here's where we are. Here's the route we want to take to get here. This is where we planned like our route getting to our destination, not around like the off road part. You know.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So like you're saying, just more planning.
A little bit
with
better planning.
the
And I think the other big thing is walkie talkies.
Yeah,
I think because comms don't have the longest range.
We lose ourselves a lot because we're.
Yeah.
I just think right now we're at such different off-road skill levels.
Yeah.
That we don't ride at the same pace.
Yep.
So we lose each other all the time.
Yeah.
It seems like.
So I think walkies just in general would be nice if you do these kinds of rides, even locally here, because then if you drop out of comms range, we have the walkies to kind of be like, hey man, you okay? Like, yep, just
because the
coming up if
Cardos. They've got great distance, but not when it gets hilly and there's nothing you can do about line of sight.
Yep, exactly. Yep. So I think that would be one of those things where it'd be like kind of nice to have. Luckily, they're cheap and easy to find, so just to have like as a little extra.
And then I'm
safety
definitely getting some sort of GPS.
That would be good, especially if you're planning on doing stuff solo.
I think I'm gonna do the InReach Messenger one.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I think for motorcycling, my next thing though is just being able to ride a bike again. So.
Yeah,
that would be a good start.
Get your knee better.
Before we wrap up, unless you guys have something else.
Nope, that's it.
We have received everybody's emails.
That's
we
true.
are replying to them. We will. But as far as listeners go, Edward, congrats on your bike. He got his first real bike. He says, Honda Shadow.
What do you have before that?
Just a dirt bike. He said he was on a little dirt bike before. So.
I thought it was like a moped, just not a real bike.
Yeah.
Yep. And I don't know. I think Nicole can probably expect a long list of bikes and suggestions on her email. So thanks for getting to us. Sorry it took a little bit to get back to you, but we
had a busy couple of weeks, and then we didn't get a chance to record last week because I got sick.
Yeah.
So
broken knees, COVID, and all that stuff.
So
tired,
just exhausted. I remember coming home from that trip and I just like took a shower.
I didn't.
Lie down.
I took a shower and then I didn't touch my bike for like 4 days.
I don't know if you guys noticed.
I still haven't touched my bike.
Oh, really? Yeah, I've ridden it like 2 or 3 times. I can't stop.
I washed my bike. I took it out for a ride already before this happened.
Good thing you did.
Yeah, honestly. Well, I don't know if you guys noticed out there, but I still have like all my bags from the trip.
And that's the way mine. I only unpacked the one pannier that I use for like my commuting.
I have
my other one's still stuffed full of whatever's in there. I don't even know.
I unpacked the one with my clothes and washed them, and then the camping one's still.
I think my camping one's the one that's just sitting there.
Yep. Yeah. I still haven't washed my bike.
It has been opened. I washed mine finally.
Nice.
But,
I'm gonna try to do mine this weekend because I got sick, so I was like, I don't want to do anything.
Well, I'm glad I'm not the only one because I just got like all my riding gear for the trip is still out there.
Yeah,
my saddle bag, the duffel bag,
everything's
everything.
Dirty, dusty.
My garage is an absolute disaster right now.
But I think that's pretty much it.
Yeah,
Emerson, thank you so much for joining us again. It was awesome riding with you.
Yeah, thanks for coming on the trip too.
Yeah. Thanks for agreeing to be our guest again.
Yep.
And everyone else, thank you so much for listening. We'll see you in the next episode. Have a good day.